How's it going, Say?
Hi, how are you?
Doing as great as possible.
Good to see
So, yeah, good to see you again. Um,
you. There we
that's
go.
okay. You're welcome to do that on camera.
Happy International Women's Day.
Yeah.
I love
Um,
who's falling on this day.
I wanted to know a little bit about your past because when we spoke about my, what was it, Movers Ultimate?
Yes.
Is the name of it? Okay, when we spoke about that, we talked about like kind of your present and your future, but we didn't really talk about how you got into the industry and like what your spark was to start doing that. So can you tell me a little bit about that?
That's a very good question. Honestly, I think I felt the spark to go into it pretty early on. I was just telling someone the story a couple of years, a little while ago, that when I was around 10 or 11, I remember asking for a camera for Christmas. I wanted to, we couldn't take video on point and shoot cameras when I was that young, but I wanted to start taking pictures. And I was getting into theater in school and stuff like that. It's unfortunate that the arts was not an something that I was allowed to explore. My parents just didn't like it. They didn't see it as a career path. And so I was kind of honestly against my will forced to go to college, and my school was picked for me. And I went to Allegheny College, which is in Meadville, Pennsylvania. And they actually just did a write up about me a couple months ago because my story there and how I ended up becoming an actor really starts with Allegheny College. The school is known for sciences and pre med mostly, but it's a small liberal arts school, and it has a very unique setup where some genius, I'll have to figure out who it was and thank them one day. They implemented a program into the school where basically if you looked at all the majors available and you didn't like it, you could create your own as long as it's approved. So you could pick courses from any of the courses that are available and make your own curriculum and say, this is what I will be an expert at the end of it, and it'll be called this. And then they have this whole board of professors review it, and they're not approved very often, but mine was. I was halfway through school and I said, you know what, I'm finding myself taking these production courses and all this, and I ended up doing I had a major and a minor already that satisfied what my family wanted me to do. And then I added another major, which was basically acting and production put together. So I was taking all the acting classes, all the film production classes, audio production, all that jazz. And then when I came out of school, the first job that I got was at a boutique production studio doing commercial work. I was a producer first. And
Oh,
that only lasted about a year and a half because the whole time I was producing, I was behind the camera and I was loving it, but I wanted to be the performer. That was what my true passion was. And so I just remember, waking up one day thinking, okay, I need to just make this change. I'm an adult now. I'm in control of my own life and I can decide what I want to do. And that's when I did it. And there were a couple stepping stones to actually going into acting full time because I didn't even know where to begin. I was completely on my own. I wasn't technically trained, as you would say. I had, a bachelor's degree from a liberal arts college for a made up major. And I had never taken any, like, even private acting coaching or classes or anything. So I didn't know where to begin. And one of our clients, when I was producing at the production studio, they ran Pittsburgh sports teams, which is where I'm from, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I remember them hiring me to be one of their infield sports reporters. I did that for about 2 years, and my segments ended up being live on ESPN and the NFL network, and I covered the Pittsburgh Power indoor football team, and Steelers training camp, and I think one or two Pirate games. But that was fun because I got to interact with people and really build and hone my improv skills and awareness for my surroundings and who I was talking to, what was going on. And in the meantime was kind of getting my feet wet with short films and being an extra on set. I remember doing a couple stand-in gigs because I realized that that would allow me to be, up close to the action of what was going on and learning. I'm a Virgo, so information is power all the way. So
So,
I started thinking of everything I was doing, like studying.
um, two questions. First, when you were in school taking all those classes, which one of them do you think um, contributed most to your career today?
That's a great question. Ironically, it wasn't art class, but it wasn't production or performance based. I took a This is so strange. Wow. That's a great question because I've never thought about this before. Yeah, I talk about this class all the time. I can't remember the professor's name or anything else about it. It was a charcoal drawing class. And I just remember we had to do this project called the 40-hour drawing. And basically we had this giant thing of paper and just black charcoal and an eraser. And the professor took a projector and projected an image up onto the wall. And we had no idea what it was. It was some black and white image. And she turned the focus all the way off. It was just blurs and shapes and honestly, like just a jumble of nothing. And we had to spend 40 hours on this drawing. And we would have to come to the studio in the evenings. And every week she would turn the focus a little bit more. We always had to draw exactly what we saw. So at first you're drawing shapes and you're like, what the hell is this? I have no idea. I'm gonna end up redoing it anyway. And it becomes frustrating at first. This is why I loved this class so much, because at first you're like, what is the point? Why waste time? Why not just show us the image and have us draw that? There was a point, and it's a lesson I still carry with me to this day, which is that every time she would turn the focus a little bit more, some of the things that you did were in the right place and looked good, and others needed to be reworked or completely erased and redone. But it was working the page that made it at the end look exactly like the drawing. Instead of just jumping to the end and trying to do everything, it was the little steps along the way, and then having to stop every single time like these external circumstances adjusted themselves, and you had to kind of take a step back and look at it and think, okay, these are the things I need to change now in order to move forward. And everyone's drawing ended up looking, even people that had never drawn anything in their lives, it looked like a masterpiece. It looked exactly like the picture at the end. And I just love that lesson. I think about it all the time because I'm at a point in my life now where I do feel like sometimes it's healthy. Everybody loves to just run. And I feel like it's a race, especially in the entertainment industry. Everyone's just trying to get ahead of the next person. And I do think that there's healthy balance to be found in taking a second and thinking about, there's so much that's out of our control. I have a lot of stuff going on in my life right now that is just completely like changing everything for me, as I know you do too. And just kind of working with what you have, making the best of it, but also not being afraid to take 2 steps back and living there for some time, because then you'll be healed and well enough or aware enough to be able to leap 10 steps further. Whereas it's kind of like when you get sick, you gotta take time off and you have to get better. If you try to just do all the things that you want to do while you're not feeling well, then you're just gonna stay sick. And then what happens? I don't, it's just, I think about that class all the time. I still have my drawing, and I have thrown away all my possessions 10 times since then. So
And that's a big drawing too.
yeah, it's pretty big. I'll send you a
So,
picture.
okay, so I want to know, my second question was, do you feel like your sports reporting was what got you most comfortable on camera?
Um, yes, definitely. That I had to get very comfortable being on camera, especially because everything was so spontaneous. Sometimes we would be out in the field and I have to interview people, and I had an earpiece and they would say, okay, go here, talk to this person. You have 30 seconds. You have to make it 30 seconds, but you can't go over 30 seconds. And you can ask them this, but don't talk about these three things. Go. And I would have to do it with a straight face and not act nervous. Oh God, I dug up some of my old interviews not too long ago though. I was so nervous. I was like this little kid, like, so
So how old were you when you started doing that?
well, that would have been, I would have been around 21, 22 when I did that. And it was a complete, the client of our studio, they asked me in an emergency situation, their like seasoned reporter girl, she got sick or something and couldn't come in at the last second, and we were there to film the game, and they knew that I had this background, and somebody had faith in me and said, can you do it? I remember saying no at first. I said, no, I don't think I can. They were like, well, it's you or nobody, so please. They kind of begged, and I did it. And then I think they brought me back 3 more games, and they ended up letting that other girl go because I don't know. I think that they, like, the scheduling just worked out better, and I ended up staying on full time. And then I left the production studio, and that was my gig for about a year and a half, 2 years. But like I said, during that time, I was still trying to get on-set film experience in the background. And again, luck struck my way because I was doing a stand-in gig, and the project was for Rachel McAdams. I think that we talked about this before.
Yeah, we did. You
Yeah,
were her stunt double, right?
that's what I was gonna say. I was actually her stand-in first, and then
No.
they needed a stunt double for her, and because I was trained and certified in all these things, just being an adrenaline junkie growing up, that's how I ended up becoming her stunt double. And then the next 2-3 years I did stunts, and then one day I had to call quits on that and say, no, acting is what everything. I always had to say, okay, we're done, it's acting. And not that a lot's riding on this, but a lot's riding on this because I let a lot of things go to make this work.
So what was your, when you trained, when you made the move from stunt double to acting, what was your first project? Like, how did that switch come about?
My
I know you
first,
said you wanted to act, so that was your plan, but like, what was the process of that?
I remember I can't say I necessarily quit stunts. I quit stunt doubling for other actresses. I still love stunts and do as many of my own stunts as I can. I'm not, as well trained as some of the amazing stunt doubles out there, stunt women, I should say. But I remember almost immediately after I did that, I know that was the universe saying that I was making the right decision, because it was maybe a month later that I got my first audition, and it was for a short film, filming in Pittsburgh. It was a like a neo-noir thriller type of short film. Eric Yeckley was directing, and he was fresh out of Point Park University. This has a point. Point Park University is a college in Pittsburgh that caters to acting and film production. And he had just graduated and he did this short film, and it was a 2 character film. And so it was my first project, and I remember thinking it was a lead, so that was cool. And I played basically a Secret Service agent, and I'm trying to help this man get away from Anonymous, the organization that people think exists that runs
Right.
um and it was a 20-minute short film, and I remember just thinking I felt so lucky. I don't even think I got paid on it. I might have. I don't remember. I just remember thinking like, oh my gosh, this is my first opportunity. I remember I took the bus. I didn't even have a car. I took the bus and I was reading my lines on the bus, and like I think I got the script the day before, and I'm like trying to memorize everything on my way down there. And I get there and I'm like, okay, just memorize one scene at a time. But somehow everything just clicked in a way, and everything was just felt so natural and so easy. And the crew and everybody was like incredible and amazing and laid back. And it was just such a good environment for a first project, because that short film ended up, it looks spectacular. I'm very proud of it as a first performance. Granted, 12 years later, I can look back and, pinpoint all the things that I would have done differently. But for my first performance, I'm very proud of it. And that short film ended up winning tons of festival awards. And Eric Yeckley, he now works for Fox in LA and produces Modern Family. And he just did Not Dead Yet with Gina Rodriguez. Like, he went on to do amazing things. So I get to say, my first project was with someone who, we were both green at the time. That was his first time directing, my first time acting. And I always joke with him, I hope one day when we're, big, the big kids on campus, we get to like join together and do something else again on a big caliber.
So it was obviously super nerve-wracking for you because it was your first acting part. But do you feel like it was more, or you were more nervous because of the minimalist cast than you are when you do things like Movers Ultimate?
I don't want to say trying to think of how to phrase this. I always get nervous still, even 12 years later. So I don't think it has anything to do with any kind of specific environment or anything like that. I get nervous even when I have to film a self-tape. I get the little butterflies in my stomach at first, and then they go away eventually. But I like that, and I don't think that I would want to do it if it didn't give me butterflies in my stomach, because that means I feel something. It means something to me. If I was just a robot going through the motions, and it's such a catch-22 because in casting, they tell you, and I know it's true because I have been this. They say, if you walk into the room and the CDs and the client and everybody can feel or sense that you're desperate, that you really want this job, that like rent's on the line or something's on the line, they can sense it, and it's an immediate turn off. They almost like don't want to book you because it shows in your performance. But it's just ironic because we're almost always desperate. We really, really want these roles. We wouldn't show up if we didn't want these roles. So it's can I swear on here?
Yeah, you can say whatever you want.
A total mind fuck, because you have to teach yourself to care as much as a person can possibly care about a character, and put yourself in their mindset and deliver. And then as soon as you're done, whether it be a self-tape or in the room, as soon as you're done, as soon as you walk away, you have to let it go. Like, you have to. Otherwise, everything will be ruined for you if you don't get it. And most times something else is coming in your inbox soon anyway, and you just have to shed that and go on to the next thing. But then it gets even trippier when if you end up booking the role, because then you have to put it back on. But I forget who it was. I honestly think it might have been Will Smith. I saw an interview with where he was saying that every character he ever plays, if you actually put in the work into the character that you should be putting in, it's like a shirt you can just put on, or a skin you can just put on if someone asks you. And I remember starting to feel that way one day was when I started studying with John Markland, my acting coach. Now I've studied with him about 3 or 4 years at this point, and the work that we do on each character is so deep that it integrates into my life and who I am as a person, and I'm able to shed it. But he's just very good at helping his actors pinpoint characteristics that we already have and things we already feel, and then applying them to the character and just kind of like tweaking, turning some up, some down, so that it's easy to put that skin back on. But ever since studying with him, I've had a couple of roles that have come back around where I've had to do pickup shoots, or one was an episode that got picked up. We started working on the second episode, and it's a long time later, and I have to put the skin back on, and it's just easy. I don't know what it is. I get worried about it, and then the time comes to do it, and it's just there. She's already there, whoever it is.
Well, do you ever utilize any of those skins that you've worn in previous projects, any of the characters that you've played, when you're doing a new role? Like when you're researching it and going over the script, do you ever think like, okay, I could use a little bit of
Yes.
X character from Y project?
Yeah, that has definitely happened a couple of times. I did an audition recently where I read the whole script and started to do the work, and the answers to the questions that I normally asked myself kept being the same as the character I've played in the past. And so I basically just took a step back and looked at it and said, okay, she is this other character. She just maybe has these couple of differences. So I just put on that skin and then concentrated on those 2 or 3 things that were different. And it made it so much easier, actually. Yeah, that was cool.
That's pretty cool. So what have you been up to since Movers Ultimate, since we talked the last? Have you gotten new projects in your inbox that you're working on, or hoping come to fruition?
A couple of things. The one that I am probably most excited about happened right after Movers Ultimate came out. I got a call from a director that I've worked with before on an episodic called National Wrestling League, which is actually headed to festivals this year. That was the skin I was just talking about. My character from that, her name is Mad Maxine, and she's like the 80s eccentric secretary from Ghostbusters, New Jersey accent, runs the whole shit type of character. Like, I love her so much. But we worked on that, I think a year ago or something. And he called me out of the blue this past September. And he started a project with the George Romero Foundation. And apparently there are some scripts still lying around from George. And the foundation, which is run by George Romero's wife, has decided to try to see some of these scripts to production. And it ended up getting rewritten and worked on by somebody else. But sorry, well, I don't know why I'm stuttering.
It's okay.
The project, they ended up making a short film, and it's a George Romero project, which was very exciting and produced by the George Romero Foundation. And he asked me if I would be in it. There was a role, and it was a role like something I've never done. I had to play well, I don't want to give something away, but there are multiple layers to this role, but I had to play a mother who she suffers an overdose. She's a drug addict, and it's very the short film was very haunting, George Romero style, typical. I actually don't know what I can say about it, so I'm just gonna steer clear of the plot.
We're just gonna say that you're
Yeah.
a scream queen now. So
Yeah. But it's really, really cool, and I got to get some really cool special effects makeup. Like I was tattooed face, all like my whole body. I
that's
had all
cool.
these like track marks and stuff, and there's another layer to it that I can't tell you, but that I'm so excited about that, because just to be able to do something with George Romero's name attached to it is so fucking cool.
Yeah, that's
And
great.
yeah, I haven't seen it yet, but I will be seeing it for the first time because it is premiering at the Salem Film Festival in
Salem.
Salem, Massachusetts. Yeah.
And
So,
you're not, you said you're not allowed to say the name of the film, correct?
the name is Riverside Park. I can say
Riverside
that.
Park.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I didn't want you to break any NDAs.
It's not
So,
that. It's just if I told you any more about my character, it would be total spoiler, because my character is the twist. So
I want to know with that role, it's not a question about your character so much as it is about you and how you experienced it. Do you feel like it got to you mentally at all because of the situation your character was in?
absolutely. Yeah. That was a rough one, actually. I worked with my coach on a lot because this character goes through a lot of deep, heavy stuff. And I remember Cam, the director, we were filming my scenes, and I was just, everybody was having so much fun and happy to be there. And the crew was all, in good spirits. And I remember just walking away. We were filming in a park. And I remember just walking away like 50 yards and just standing with my back to everybody, just thinking, like mentally just staying in the space that I needed to be in and thinking about all the things I needed to think about. And I just remember him coming over to me, "Are you okay?" It's like, "Yes, I'm fine. I'll just be over here. Tell me when you're ready." He was like, "Okay." Like Cam, we worked together before, so he kind of knows how I work. He just wanted to make sure I was fine. But after that, he's like, "Oh, okay. He like got it right away. He understood what was happening." And so between every single take, I would just walk away. When it was time, I would come back, we would shoot, I would walk away again. And then it's like as soon as you wrap, all that I'm able to just like, it's relieving almost to just shed all of that. And finally, like I tell people, I'm like, now you can meet the real me. Hi, nice to meet you. I'm so happy to be here. Actually, this is amazing. Like, this is so exciting. I can't wait to see it. They get, an hour or two of the real say after I shed. But when I walk onto set, I I'll have the conversations I need to have, but I stay so mentally focused because I used to do the light switch thing. And I feel like this is a young and naive type of attitude where I would actually pride myself on showing up as myself. And then as soon as the camera starts rolling, I'd get into character. And then as soon as they yelled cut, I'd be like, back. And I had so many people be like, I don't know how you can turn it on and off like that. And like, I was proud of that. Like I took great pride in that. But then honestly, it wasn't until I started like really deeply working with an acting coach and things like that I realized that as impressive as that might be, there's only so deep you can go unless you fully change.
Yeah.
And I would rather I'm starting to see.
I'm sorry, my cat is getting into
No, that's fine.
everything. I didn't want you to think I was ignoring you.
No, yeah, you're fine. I'm starting to see the appeal of method acting more than anything, because it is a lot easier when you just stay in character. And I've had a couple characters at this point where accents were involved and stuff, and I just don't shed the accent in between filming anymore. It's a lot easier to become that person.
What's the hardest accent you've had to pull off?
Mad Maxine was New Jersey accent.
Hmm.
I had to do, I don't know if you remember me telling you about Unsinkable, the Titanic film that has
Oh yeah, you
still
did.
yet to be released.
I remember.
I heard from the director recently, and I think that will be coming out in theaters possibly next year. It's been like the little project that can, big project that can. It's a huge film, but it's been from pre-production to now, I think 6 years, which is ironic because it's about the Titanic, and this film has been cursed in a way. Like things have stopped production 3 times between pandemic and just other things. But for that character, that was a very specific accent where my character comes from the poor class that is on the ship, and I had to actually work with a Titanic historian and an accent coach on figuring out exactly what her accent would be, because as far as they know, the people on the bottom of the ship, like the poor people that only got to go on after everyone else was on board, they would have come from Eastern Europe and probably a specific region, but there's about 3 countries that kind of intersect that region. So we kind of crafted an accent that was specific enough to be in that, from that location, but vague enough that it could be from any of those 3 countries. And my character speaks with a very quiet voice. She only has to say a few lines in it, so that was great. But we were honestly working on it until like minutes before we were shooting my scenes, because my character actually had no lines in the film, and then we did reshoots and they wrote in an additional scene for me where she does have lines. And so I remember showing up to set after flying in from LA and working with these people and trying to pinpoint it, and we didn't come to a decision until right before we started filming, but they were really happy with it. So that was interesting.
Were you happy with that?
Yes, I was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Especially because I ended up talking to a friend of mine who I grew up with, who's obsessed with the Titanic, which is a weird obsession to have. But I asked her afterwards, I said, do you think this is right? Like, is this? And she was like, that's perfect. That's exactly what it would have been. So that made me feel better. A little validating that we made the right decision.
Sorry about the yawning. It's my brain.
You don't have to apologize. You're fine. No worries.
I just didn't want you to think that you were boring.
No, not at all. I'm so happy to see you up and moving in general. How are you feeling?
Better. It's my brain's still healing, so I've got some up and down stuff, but for the most part, I'm feeling a lot better. I mean, I'm able to do this, so
Yeah.
that's a lot better than I was 2 months ago. I'm not walking with a cane anymore, so
Damn it.
no kingpin.
No, we needed to get you the all white suit. I wanted to see the Kingpin Joe. He's amazing. I love Kingpin. I don't know. I tend to gravitate towards the villains for some reason. Like my favorite Star Wars character of all time is actually Thrawn. Do you know Star Wars at all?
A little bit.
Okay. He's like a big bad villain. He should be appearing in the cinematic universe pretty soon, but I don't know what that says about me. I really empathize with villains. I think a lot of them are just misunderstood. And
Would you like to play? Would you like to play more villains?
Absolutely. Yeah.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a lot of inspiration I can draw from.
So
Myself, just
you have mentioned that you did a wrestling movie, you did the sports commentary, and you did a lot of physical things when you were younger. I'm curious how far back your sports interests go, and what started those.
I was never a super sports fan, other than the fact that I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and they will kick you out if you're not into sports. I say that as a joke, but it's kind of true.
Yeah,
It's like die hard Steeler country. I mean, all the sports, but mainly the Steelers. If you I've never met a person from Pittsburgh that said they weren't a Steelers fan. Like there's something weird about the Pittsburgh Steelers culture where if you actually travel, not even around the country, there are in Europe and other parts of the world Steelers bars. There's Steelers bars everywhere, not even in Pittsburgh, like around the world. It's a bizarre phenomenon. Yeah. So it was knowledge that was forced on me. I mean, of course I enjoyed it at the time, but it was very easy to jump into because I already knew everything about all the players and the history of the team and whatnot. I've kind of really slacked on that since my sports reporting days, because I've moved around and I'm not really, as hyper focused anymore. But yeah, it was kind of, it was tricky to transition from just general sports knowledge, though, to asking very specific questions about the play that just happened or the person that just came off the bench or things like that, because it wasn't just you ask a question, you get an answer, you ask a new question, like I had to have conversations back and forth about the logistics of the game. But I did have someone in my ear, so while they were answering, I had someone who really knew how things worked, being like, oh, that's interesting, ask him about this. If I didn't have anything to say, he would offer prompts should I need them. So I can't take full credit for it. It's production is a magical thing. A lot about.
So you had mentioned being a huge fan of the Star Wars universe. Are there any other cinematic universes that you would like to get involved in?
Marvel and DC are, well, yes, those are numero uno. Star Wars is a close second.
Oh, those beat Star Wars. Okay.
I'm obsessed with Groot. As everybody knows, I have him tattooed on my ankle.
That was my shirt that I just spilled egg on. Like,
No!
yeah, it was a Groot shirt.
Were you gonna wear it for me, or do you just love Groot too?
I didn't know you liked Groot, so
I have.
yeah.
Let me see if I can show you. I have a baby Groot tattoo.
Oh, actually, now I think I remember. I think you might have told me that last time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Now I have to say this. I've been obsessed. I've been a fan of Groot since before Baby Groot ever existed. So I have to say I am not one of those females that just likes all the cute little creatures that come out that sell merchandise. Like I loved Groot when he was old man Groot, and before the cinematic universe and James Gunn and everybody did what they did with his life cycle, and now they're showing the different stages. Like I love all stages of Groot. I mean, teenage Groot is quite the asshole, but still gotta, what he's gonna turn into. You gotta love it. I just think it's beautiful, like how the life cycle works and what he chooses to do with it. And there's
the shirt that I had was the original Groot, not Baby Groot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it says we are Groot. I wish that they would have mourned him or said anything about him at the end, considering he saved all their lives.
I think Rocket probably, well, I don't know if Rocket would have known what was about to happen.
Yeah, well, he did because he grabbed the twig, I think.
Yeah, I think he probably knew what was about to happen. Yeah. But I mean, looking at the trailer for the next and final Guardians of the Galaxy, we're getting like jacked Groot, like in his
Yeah.
prime Groot. I can't wait.
Yeah. And the characters that are gonna die in that one are gonna be talked about, I guarantee. But
I don't think about it. Mm. I am though. I will say I'm you know, obviously a huge fan of James Gunn's work because of what he's done with my favorite characters. But now that he's the head of the DC cinematic universe, there was so much scrutiny around what was going to be done with that because DC has just kind of, missed the mark for so long, and Marvel has really just hit so many things out of the ballpark that when he got hired as the head of DC, everybody kind of thought like, oh, here we go again. Like, it's just gonna be something different, something new. They'll move on to the next thing. And I don't know how closely you follow it, but he just recently announced a lot of like phase 1 of the DCU. And
yeah, I watched the video.
So freaking excited. I think that it's gonna be amazing. And
Gods and monsters.
I never like pre James Gunn, I would have been very nervous to be in a DC project. I gotta be honest, just because it could go one way or the other, and it could be career making or breaking. Now,
Yeah.
I would kill to be in a DC project. I just have so much faith in him that I think it's going to be incredible. So,
We're on the same page there, for sure.
James, if you're listening, hit me up.
So, you love villains. What kind of villain would you like to play in DC or Marvel?
Oh, that's a great question.
Because I think you could pull off Black Cat for Marvel pretty well.
This might Black Cat. Oh, thank you.
You're pretty good with changing your hair up.
I know, it's so weird to be a redhead now. Something I didn't know about being redheads, apparently you get very strange random comments from strangers all the time. So I feel really bad for redheads. So all the redheads out there, I'm sorry for what you have to go through. People just think it's okay to like stop you everywhere you are at the store and comment. Anyway, okay, what villain would I want to be in Marvel or DC? Again, this is a matter of perspective because I happen to have empathy for characters, no matter whether they're classified as heroes or villains. And I personally am of the opinion that every hero and every villain thinks they're the hero and the other's the villain. So on that note, even though she's classified as, well, it's not said, but even though, it's assumed that she's a hero in the comics, Hawk Girl is a character that I would fucking love to play, because even though she's on the side of the good guys, she has so many villainous tendencies. She's brutal. She's so hardcore. She doesn't give a fuck. Like, she is extremely violent. And again, like we were talking about before, where the villain mentality comes from, she just has a traumatized past. And I mean, poor girl's been reincarnated how many times and like forced to end up with the same man every single time. Like
every time, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very layered character.
I would love to play Hawk. I just bought her pop the other day, her Funko Pop. I love her.
I don't think I have that one. But
maybe that's something that is coming, because Hawkman was introduced in Black
Adam. Oh. Yeah. So the one I thought you were gonna say was Poison Ivy.
I love Poison Ivy, but it's really hard for me to gravitate towards roles that are like sexy and sensual, and it is against my inner nature. I'm more brutal, blunt, hardcore, cutthroat, just by nature. So that's not to say that I couldn't play Poison Ivy, but I would rather play Hawk Girl. I'd rather be people up and get bloody. What's
So
this
when
gun to be?
when James Gunn calls you, you gotta tell him no, no to poison ivy. Say
I-
no, put hot girl or something.
That'd be a difficult conversation, but no, I don't know that I'd ever say no to anything James Gunn would throw my way.
Yeah.
I think he knows better than me. Anyway.
Well, I'm glad that he's over in DC now, handling DC. Hopefully
Me
he
too.
learned a lot. He's gonna take what he learned from Kevin Feige and Marvel and kind of make movies that we want to see that are DC.
Did you ever see Brightburn that his brother did?
I did not see it, but I really want to.
It's a very I just read this book series called Vicious, and it's a similar concept. It's like the whole, I don't know why I'm on this lately, but the whole heroes versus villains mentality. It's like, who decides that one's good and one's bad? It's just two different opinions and two different means to an end.
Yeah.
Now morality definitely comes in question, but everybody has a different sense of morality too. So it's just very interesting to me because this book series that I read, each chapter it alternates. It's two men pinned against each other, and each chapter alternates their perspective. So you hear from one of their perspective, the next chapter is the next guy's perspective. Keeps flipping, and they both think they're the hero and the other's the villain, and they're both taking extreme measures, but in different ways. And Brightburn, it reminds me of that because it's a kind of about, it's like a horror, but about Superman as a kid.
Yeah.
And in his youth or like like 13.
He's like, I was gonna say he's like 10-ish, isn't he?
Yeah, so he's like just hitting puberty. His emotions are at an all-time high. He's like finding out who he is. Like basically what would happen. It's very realistic because it's not like all cookie cutter.
Yeah.
Yay, there's a villain, you beat him up, save the day. It's very like, what would happen if you had the powers of a god and you found out all this traumatizing stuff and you reacted or accidents happened? It would be a fucking horror film. That's what it would be. And that movie is brilliant for that.
I really want to see it. I'm surprised I haven't yet. What you're saying about, everybody thinks they're the hero, it kind of reminds me of the Suicide Squad by James Gunn with Peacemaker and Rick Flag. And I think it was those two that went to shoot each other.
Yeah.
And because they both thought that they were doing the right thing. And Peacemaker's like, I'll kill whoever it takes to even my hero,
Yeah.
So,
moral of the story, everything comes back to James Gunn. That's it.
Okay, so back to talk about you, because James Gunn is not a woman, and it's just
yes. International Women's Month. International Women's Day.
Yeah. So, what do you think that you have? I know we're running out of time, but have you faced any challenges that you think were based on your gender in this industry?
Absolutely. I mean, besides the unfortunately not well known for a while, now well known sexual harassment scandals and things like that. There is, and I can't say this is specific to actors. I just think that it's really more of a blurry line because of what we are expected to do in our profession. Thank God intimacy coordinators are now gaining traction and things like that, because I have done projects in the past where back when I was non-union, this was way different than now. I've been SAG-AFTRA for many years. There are certain protections and things in order when you're part of a union, which I would not give up for the world. But yeah, this industry specifically, even though things are changing, it's still primarily run by men. It's primarily run by white men. And there are things that we are expected to do as performers that we're supposed to just forget there are other people in the room, which is a little impossible to do. And also during the auditioning process, there are things that could be asked of you that you have to state your comfort level, that as a female, you know, you might draw a boundary, but it's implied, or you at least feel this pressure that if you say no to something, then you're going to lose out on an opportunity. That is very, very heavy in this environment. On top of that, I've found myself in many, many situations where the man running things has come on to me, and I've had to navigate. It's just a really uncomfortable space to navigate. To put
Sorry, I gotta plug my computer in. Just give me 1 second.
no worries.
I promise I'm listening. Or was listening.
You're
There we go. And just so you know,
Is that Kingpin? Yes. You even have his face. Like the facial hair, everything's in the same spot.
well, I got a big scar now. Well, you can't really see it as much anymore, but
That's badass.
it's like a big.
How many people can say they had their head cut open? That's badass.
They've got some of my brain in Cleveland. They wouldn't let me keep any.
You wanted to keep it?
Just a little bit. Just
Why would they
just
let
like
you? Not even like it's formaldehyde? No.
I don't think it's yeah, no, I don't think it's legal.
Legal. Oh.
They said like before 2002 they would have been able to do it. I don't know what changed then, but yeah.
Okay, my imagination is running circles right now because I immediately started thinking about how you have to show ID to buy allergy medicine because of what people are doing with medicines. And now I'm like, what were people doing with their organs?
Yeah.
Illegal.
Yeah.
Wrong with this world.
I just wanted to be able to literally give people a piece of my mind, and I just put it in a little vial around my neck. Like it's also like a trophy, you know, like I
Yeah.
did brain surgery.
Dude, I totally understand. I would have wanted the same thing, honestly.
I
Made
know
more out of it.
our time is coming up. Is there anything that you wanted to mention about your gender and the things that you have to go through?
Oh yeah. Well, just to finish that thought, I don't know how you're gonna edit this, but I was just saying that yeah, there have been many, many times. I know this for a fact because every single female that I take classes with or study with or work with, I have this conversation with. And it is so not unique. Every female goes through this in this industry. Is there will be a point in time where one of the men in power, somebody who's determining your place in things, will do something inappropriate or at least try to see how you react to something. And if you don't react the way they like, you could react as politely or as professionally as you choose. If it's not what they want, they, at the end of the day, hold the power to change what you look like within that project and within the frames of that project. So that is something. I'm a member of Women in Film. And that's something that we actively work towards, is just restructuring and bringing awareness to how things work in the film industry, and making sure that, not only are females getting equal pay and equal rights, but also that things like that are reduced. Like I said, it's not unique to this industry. It's just life in general. It's the world in general. Yeah. But I think we all just, as long as we all play our part and do what we can to try and make things better, then hopefully every year International Women's Day and Women's History Month will get a little bit better for us.
Yeah,
I think we're on the right track. We've made a lot of progress in the past few years, so I'm proud of a lot of things.
I'm glad that we brought that up and were able to touch on that, because I think that that's really important. I just want to say, since we were talking about Marvel movies, that reminds me, Paul Rudd makes them pay Evangeline Lilly as much as they pay him.
Yep. And I love actors like that. Just anyone looking out for inequality in general. I know also, like, this isn't gender equality, but just in general, Keanu Reeves is famous too for the Matrix films. He took his salary and basically distributed it evenly to all the special effects people for every film, because he was like, these films wouldn't happen without these people. It's like, just anybody that recognizes that and doesn't make it about the money and the power, that's something that we have to just constantly be aware of. But we're making strides.
Yeah,
Still work to be done.
I mean, with time, all the old white men will phase out. So,
no comment. No comment. Oh no, that's our time. We gotta go.
Yeah. But do you want to plug anything before I stop the recording?
No, we talked about everything. No, we're good.
Solid.
Thank you.
Cool. No, thank you.